So in this lesson, I will identify symbolism, foreshadowing, and motif. Now, these three literary elements can definitely overlap, all right? And I will kind of show you here the ideas. You could say that in at the end of part two or part one, when Vashti is murmuring about no ideas, one could say, all right, and I'll explain this. I could say for foreshadowing, throughout the story, Vashti often complains that she has no new ideas. At the end of part one, Vashti is on her way to visit Kuno. We could say she's murmuring it. Then Vashti is on her way to visit Kuno, murmuring about her lack of ideas. This concept foreshadows that the machine will eventually stop and humanity will collapse. And that would be, I'm interpreting the story in my own way here. So if you have a society, if a society has no new ideas coming in, I'll say innovations, has no new innovations, it is obvious that eventually the society will end. Like, you can't just have a society with nothing new coming in. That's going to be problematic. And that's also your motif. So the no ideas, most definitely a motif. Now, as we go down, homelessness, that is a motif as well. I'll put this here. So the concept of homelessness is a motif that appears throughout the text that we can say emphasizes what can happen to those that don't agree with the machine or don't want to take part in it. So the homelessness motif, and also when Kuno says that he was threatened with homelessness, this foreshadows that he has a lot going on. It can foreshadow that he is kicked out of the machine. He's kicked out of the society, shunned entirely. The worshiping of the machine. So we can say that book, Vashti has a little book. It's similar to like a manual, we can say. And she's kissing it at nighttime, which is definitely strange. We could say that the book about the machine, it's like its manual or something, symbolizes Vashti's society in general, the world's dependency. We have, here it is. So she has a volume of, she murmured, oh machine, and raised the volume. This is, but by her side, one book. This was the book of the machine. Okay, so I will put here, and we'll do the respirators after. The book of the machine symbolizes Vashti's idolization of technology. This book, we could say in part one, Vashti performs a nightly ritual with the book, showing that the machine has taken over the role of religion in the lives of the masses. And then your respirators are a big one, okay? So the respirators is what people use to go up to the earth and breathe, right? So the respirators can symbolize many things. It could symbolize the destruction of the earth. People need to breathe using respirator devices if they visit the surface of the earth. These devices symbolize the destruction of the earth's surface. All right. Now, they symbolize as the story goes on, right? Things can start to change as we get more into our plot development. So at first, the respirators, we saw them as a symbol of, all right, people are super dependent on the machine because if they're not in the machine, they got to go get a respirator to breathe on the Earth's surface. They're underground in the machine. So we could say that as the story goes on and the respirators are taken, so at one point, as the rising action, the machine starts having more and more problems, decisions are made by the Central Committee. And they are going to take the machine or take the respirators. There's no more. They're discontinuing them, you could say. When the Central Committee makes the decision to do away with or to abolish means get rid of, to abolish respirators, the symbol takes on a new meaning concerning authoritarian rule ruler, no, we'll say authoritarian rule, restriction of movement. So basically, once you lose your respirator, now they've made this choice for you. You don't have the choice anymore. It's symbolic that people have traded convenience for their free will. We could say the respirator, the device builds the central idea that human beings traded their free will for the conveniences, I'm not going to spell this right, offered by technology. And that would be an example of how symbols can be identified and explained as they pertain to a central idea. The same with the foreshadowing. When Kuno says he's homeless, biggest foreshadowing. When Kuno keeps saying the machine stops. So when, oh wait, I forgot. That's the foreshadowing. The vomitoria. Let me get back to that one. We want to put that. The vomitoriums. That's obviously a play on words too. To vomit up the people, but it's basically symbolizes everything that the machine is taking over for the people. Back to that foreshadowing. That you could say his was not the type the machine desired to hand on. You could say that kind of foreshadows that he's going to end up getting dying, but Vashti does as well. Let's see. We will say Kuno's warning to Vashti, and at one point he had called her too to say the machine stopped. The machine stops. Anytime Kuno was trying to warn Vashti of what is happening, that's our foreshadowing. When he says he's going to call her, his respirator's gone, foreshadowing his ability to breathe is gone. And we have, there's another part of here. I will go over this further, but he comes across plants like the ferns. So if I was going to say a motif or a symbol, when Kuno visits the surface of the earth, he reports to Vashti that he saw green ferns. The ferns symbolize that all is not lost for humanity after the machine stops. Because it's going to say that it can the surface of the earth can hold life, but is it? I don't know. The latent issues with the machine. Foreshadowing. Um, the machine the machine is reported to have latent issues, which shows that it was destined to break down by the story's resolution, and that would be the ending, right? And it did. And then Kuno's warnings. That's going to be our foreshadowing. You could also say, like I said, when we're saying foreshadowing, motif, and symbolism can all go together. With the abolishment of the respirators, that could have foreshadowed that things were taking a toll for the worse because people didn't. If we assume that when everything was falling apart, it was becoming more difficult for the machine to get people out and back in, so it just did away with it. It could have told us that more things were going to happen with the machine and its failures by not giving them the respirators. And all of the motifs, all of the symbols can also be motifs. And if I want to find another one, let's see, a motif towards the end. The mention of religion in general. The second great development was the reestablishment of religion. Ooh, that's big. This too had been voiced in the celebrated lecture. No one could mistake the reverent tone in which the peroration had concluded, and it awakened a responsive echo in the heart of each. Those who had long worshipped silently now began to talk. They described the strange feeling of peace that came over them when they handled the book of the machine, the pleasure that it was to repeat certain numerals on it, however little meaning those numerals conveyed. It's supposed to be compared to a Bible here. Religion is a motif in the story because the people replaced the book of the machine with that of holy books of the 21st century, right? Like Quran, Islam, Bible, Christianity, Torah, Judaism. So we could say um, religion is a motif in the story because the people replaced the book of the machine with that of holy books of the 21st century. The worshipping of the machine through different rituals performed by Vashti is revealed throughout the text. And then in part 3, the Central Committee confirms that religion is once again legalized. People admit that the entire time they had been secretly worshiping their machine books. So that would be example of motif. Anything coming up more than once that can be used to explain a central idea. And for this central idea, this motif develops the central idea that human beings are drawn to a belief system greater than themselves. Like, even when they're trying to say, nope, no more religion, everything science and technology, people still found a way to have some type of comfort or faith or rituals that bring them, like, alleviate their anxiety or bring them peace and fulfillment. They went and sought that out regardless.